Well, good late afternoon, good evening, Rare Elvis photo fans here. It is Sunday afternoon, evening around 5 o'clock, and I'm going to answer some of your questions and read some of your comments. At Elaz-JQ6EM, one question I have is how the heck did Elvis have so much time to play around? In 1969, 1970, he saw like three women at once. Amazing no one caught STEs. He saw Joyce Bova, Barbara Lee, a young teen in Memphis named Kathy Tatum, supposedly Lucy, other randos. How do you keep track, especially while being married to Priscilla? Well, what I read and seen is that they were effectively fairly separated, um, really after she had her affair. Yeah, I mean, they had homes in LA and Memphis. Elvis was, busy doing stuff, performing. He wasn't doing movies anymore at that point in time. Well, I think he might have actually did. Well, maybe he recorded Charo in '68. But regardless, to your point, if he was in a relationship in 1970 with Joyce Bova, it wasn't much. She flew out for a couple days for a day at the show. He saw her in D.C. supposedly on the third day. Um, Barbara Lee, not extremely serious, I don't think. A young lady in Memphis called Kathy Tatum. I feel like Kathy Tatum posed in um, play, and then the next word is boy. Years later, I think that's the same one. Pretty girl. In fact, I think her and Ginger are like almost identical twins. I think they're very close looking. If that's the same one I'm thinking of, um, and that's something I think I did a video on Kathy Tatum a while ago. May still be on the page. I might have taken it down. Not sure. But good question, good points there. But just because he dated someone doesn't mean that he was every single day with them or getting sexual with them every single day of the year. Cynthia Cudmore, hey Cynthia, another great one made it to the end. I appreciate you. I think over on the Elvis and the Legends channel, it's youtube.com at Elvis and the Legends. I think you asked me to record a song for you, and I did. I keep forgetting I needed to link it up in the description for y'all. Jerry says, my son bought a lot of Elvis books for me, and there was an autographed copy of this book in the lot. I'm so glad you're reading it. Elvis was truly a man of great intelligence and many varied skills. Enjoying this book, thank you. Well, that's really awesome. I'd love it if you could take a picture of that autograph and send it to me. RareElvisPhotos@gmail.com, if you can. Janice Gudersky made it to the NTLC. Thank you, Janice. Good to see you on here today. That was 23 minutes ago, pretty much about 30 minutes ago, because I think I recorded this screen record about 10 minutes ago. Elvis and Lucy's daughter, speaks out. Elvis plans to buy a house for them in Florida. CLH Wheeler says, you are right, connecting with others. It's very important. It really is. I mean, this could be a lonely life. And to that point, keep connecting, everybody. Kimberly Struther, and be careful who you connect with, but still keep connecting. Thanks for your dedication to this book, says Kimberly. It deserves to be recognized. I read it years ago and believed it then. As a mother, I can completely understand why Lucy made the difficult decisions that she had. I mean, I do too. I mean, I'm not a mother, but, and then Two Hearts by Kimberly Struther again. To me, it reads honest. It reads like a very difficult decision. Betsy Griffin says he loved a lot of people, but he was in love with Lucy. There's a big difference, don't you think? Yeah, I mean, I think that you can love. I mean, I think that's where it's hard for being with somebody that has that much love to give. If you're not secure in yourself completely, you'll be very jealous and insecure. As Sharon Cunningham says, I love this book as well. Thanks, Joe. Take care and God bless. Made it to the end. Thank you. It's always wonderful to see you. Hey, Janet, can't find your other channel. Could you please help me? I will send you a link. I will put it in the comment. I think I was going to put one in there. But what I'll do is I will copy it into your comment. All right, Marilyn Harris 78 rightly says, who are you, Joe, that were you there to witness everything in this stupid book? So many sucked in believe in this story. Why? No, I wasn't there. But that being said, I think I replied to you, and you can take a look at the reply. Essentially, I'm just saying that, hey, Derry wrote it, Lucy wrote it. It was vetted by Random House. And nobody's come forward to say it isn't true. That's something to think about. Lynn Buska says, I read somewhere that Linda said she waited 2 months before she surrendered to Elvis, and they had a very intimate affair that first year, which is interesting when she says the first year. They were together 72 to 76. So what happened the other 3 years? I mean, maybe they were effectively not in a relationship anymore. I don't really know. I mean, I got to read her book. I need to read her book. It's hard for people to believe. It's hard to believe. As time went on, Elvis was not a sexual animal. He was in his teens and early 20s. He had needs like any man would, but even people like Natalie Wood and Peggy Lipton said Elvis wanted someone to sleep with and hold and cuddle, and he wasn't really a beast in bed. He found as deep he found as really deep feeling individuals due that he needed companionship, probably due to that he needed companionship, someone to listen to and to give him advice and talk about spirituality. As his reputation grew for being a sex symbol, I really believe it became a hallmark of feminine appeal to say you slept with Elvis. That's a good point there. A lot of people might have claimed to that never did. If this beautiful man wanted to have relations with you, then you must be beyond appealing. He was criticized by some of his lovers that he was an innocent country boy, not a sophisticated love machine. He was a Christian, and I believe all the affairs began to add up in his mind. He was in love with some, but I still hold firm that he fell out of love with Priscilla when he realized her true nature. He was looking for a deeper relationship, and I think Linda did feel a need, but wasn't she seeing Elvis's first piano player for a while? And many say Ginger was seeing someone before she met Elvis. To say you slept with the king was the goal, not did he love me. Very good comment. Y'all read a lot of great comments here, and I really make it my goal to read them. Now, sometimes they don't make these comment videos because I'm just grabbing a section of comments, so I'm not trying to favor one person over the other. But I truly, truly appreciate every one of you that leaves these comments, whether they're shorter, like made it to the end, or a couple hearts, or a nice long comment about this, I mean, they are all appreciated, and I do try my hardest to read them. You also continue, I do believe Desiree was his daughter, but Lucy was never going to put everyone in harm's way. She really loved him and who he was, when he was nobody. And that's a very good point. I think you're going to trust the love of somebody who loved you before you were somebody versus the love of somebody who loves you when you are somebody. Thanks, Joe. Lots of good points to ponder. All right, so Somi, or SOMEE 989, says, I dislike Priscilla. She was not good to Elvis or Lisa. She has created a false narrative of Elvis and her, in my humble opinion. Appreciate that. I mean, I agree with you. And I don't know how she keeps up with it. I mean, she even contradicts some things that she put down in her book. And why does that second lawsuit get ignored? Maybe she feels like she doesn't need to answer to anybody why she felt she needed more money from Elvis. That she personally needed more cash money from him. She didn't contribute to his wealth. She didn't. In my opinion, I mean, he was talented. He had record contracts. He had movie contracts prior to meeting her. But somehow she felt that she deserved to have a lot more money. All right, on the Elvis and Lucy, Lucy's daughter speaks out. Elvis plans to buy a house for them in Florida. Aunt Drew says Elvis had problems with trusting people. He needed someone he could trust with his emotions, thoughts, and even anger. He trusted Lucy out of everyone. He did that to try to kind of have a relationship. He did try to have that kind of relationship with Priscilla, but she was not Lucy. Lucy talks about Elvis complaining about the mafia always bringing in women so they could play around. Esposito does talk about them playing around after they were married. They were thinking all these women would make Elvis happy, so they didn't have to do that themselves. They kept Elvis isolated from everyone. I watched an interview with Mac Davis who said Elvis sent him an invitation to come with him to the Memphian Theater to watch movies. He shows up, Linda Thompson was there, he sits next to her, and he and Elvis talk through the whole movie, having a great time. He gets up to go to the restroom, and one of the guys told him that no one sits on the same row as Elvis, that everyone sits a couple rows behind him. Mac was furious and told Elvis what happened, which made him very angry. Elvis asked who it was, and Mac wouldn't give up his name. Elvis asked him, hey, what could he do to clear things up, and Mac settled on having Elvis's phone number. That is one event of the mafia keeping people away from Elvis. They isolated him from everyone, which contributed to his depression. Young, pretty women were safe. They heavily interviewed each one before they met Elvis. Now, I believe it was never Elvis who wanted all that. It was the guys who surrounded him that he could not trust, that he thought he could trust. He trusted Lucy. It does anger me that she kept him away from his daughter until she thinks it's too late to tell him. Maybe she does in the end. This is such a tragedy for Elvis, Lucy, and their daughter. I have so many regrets that I made. Now, after being in so much pain since 2014, I'm isolated and alone. Maybe that's why I can understand Elvis taking too much medication. I don't really think he was. He was just trying to survive. That's a very well spoken comment, and I appreciate that. And I'm sorry to hear that you're isolated and alone and in pain, and I hope things improve for you. Um, I really do. You know, I really do. And JB said the drinking is so overwhelming. Phew. I think you're saying drinking Kool-Aid. So I responded to you, JB. Joseph McDaniel, looks like 8527, says stepbrothers. I think you're saying that the brothers, Billy and Ricky and David, were stepbrothers. That's true, yes. But he treated them like real brothers. That's the book, what it's about. At Vicky says, okay, now here is it's a fairly long comment. I know Vicky's edited and added a few things and taken a few things out, which is fine. We've had a discussion about this, but she says, I think Lucy has a grandiose delusion about her alleged relationship with Elvis and always willing to be the martyr, always ready to sacrifice herself for Elvis. I needed to protect Elvis from my past. I held our love in check because of Priscilla. I went out of my way not to interfere, or I didn't mind LT, Linda Thompson, being there if it helped Elvis. Give me a break. Why did Elvis keep going back? Because, as Darius said, she was available. Also, the other women moved on. Okay, well, that's a good point. Lucy says that her love with Elvis was honorable and pure. Exactly how is that? She was married, he's divorced now. Lucy's leading a double life while lying to Elvis for 15 years for failing to reveal his alleged daughter and then tries to justify her lies. No, there's no reason to condone this action. Elvis fans have criticized Priscilla for much less. Lucy should be held accountable. Now, on that part, she's saying that their love was pure. Their feelings for each other, and for the most part, they were always in a situation where they couldn't be with each other when I read this book. And to compare Priscilla to Lucy, I don't see a comparison there. You'll have to explain that. Anita, as far as for Anita goes, I think they got a little hot and heavy. True, most people do, but the relationship was not fully consummated. I believe Anita was basically living at Graceland before and after Elvis went in the military. Elvis told Eddie Fidel that when he gets married, it's going to be to this girl. That's from Alana Nash's Baby Let's Play House, which possibly we might read that sometime. And as for Linda Thompson just being a nurse, that he was never going to marry her, I don't believe it was until late in their relationship that Linda Thompson would tag along on his dates, though, as Kathy Westmoreland said. Memphis Mafia, he has Linda Thompson with him because this way the guys go away and leave me alone. I hate their fighting and womanizing. Wow, isn't this a clever explanation? This sounds just like liar, liar, pants on fire to me. How many times have they said, if Elvis does not want you around, you wouldn't be there? And of course, he did let guys go. Some of the same guys that wrote the book, he'd let them go here and there. But I think the Elvis of the 60s and 50s was way different from the Elvis of the early 70s, mid 70s, and late 70s. He changed, and he didn't want any of that stuff around anymore. Because it's exhausting. Guys had to bring girls. And, if they were not somebody you could talk to, he probably had to be very polite, which is mentally draining, until he could get rid of them. And, of course, all the girls claimed that they slept with Elvis. Or maybe not all of them, but a lot of them did. All right, Flora Braswell. Thank you, Joe. You and yours have a great rest of the weekend, too. I'm really into the Lucy and Elvis book. I didn't think I would get like this, but it is a really interesting book. It's so sad that there were so many commitments involved here. Lucy was fully committed to Jack and her children. Elvis had all his responsibilities to his Memphis Mafia, friends, relatives, Lisa Marie, earlier on Priscilla, and career. If this is true, how I wish it were, they should have planned from the beginning. I'm not sure. If this is true, I wish it were, they should have planned from the beginning. Elvis could have saved money instead of spending it, and Lucy not having any more ties with anyone, then her and Elvis would have bought the house in Florida, settled down, and lived happily ever after, LOL. Sounds good, huh? Yeah, I think that here's the deal. Elvis was pulled in so many different directions at all different times. The 73 Aloha from Hawaii put his career on another trajectory and made him feel more responsible to follow up. And then he got locked in a lot more, I believe, casino deals, and then he went out and toured. I feel like that's the right time frame here. He was still playing in Vegas, but I believe he also went on the road as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a long weekend, and I don't make it a habit to be exactly perfect on Elvis. I'm a fan like y'all. I know a lot, so do y'all. I've lived Elvis all my life, but I'm not one that considers the details as necessary as the whole. At Freedom, what's going on at Freedom? I remember seeing Elvis on a red tractor mower. Billy Smith's cousin, along with one other guy, were going to tear down an old shed on the property when he first bought Graceland. Yeah, I answered your comment, but yeah, that's a great little video of Elvis out there, and then the tractor gets stuck, and he's trying to get it unstuck, and he's just living a normal life in 1957. So yeah, he was still famous. He was doing, Jailhouse Rock, and I think he was filming Jailhouse Rock at that point in time, or just got done, or was about to go do it. So he wasn't as famous as he was when he got back from Germany, or at the heyday of his career in '68, or really before he went in the Army in '58, after he had King Creole and Love Me Tender before that, and Jailhouse Rock. But he was still famous, and he was trying to do his own work. So I love that video too. At SDHS Cross Country, I read that Joe Esposito said Elvis was lying on the bathroom face down. Well, from what I've heard, he had a couple different stories, and I think that the very first time he told a story of what happened to somebody, that they found him in bed. And it could have been confused with they found him in his bedroom, which is right there next to his bathroom. But if Joe was going to say anything about Elvis's passing, he was trying to protect Elvis, I believe. I think he was trying to, or protect the brand. He did work for Colonel Parker too, right? Adriana says, I was pleased to hear how Kathy ended the book. TCB made it to the end. Hashtag Kathy. Thanks, Adriana. Appreciate that. That's cool. Hashtag it all the way. I love it. Elvis and Lucy Linda Thompson comes into Elvis's life. Lucy hides in despair. These are a couple comments. Eva Rampasova, that I had to hit the Google Translate, which is nice that they have it on the mobile app. I don't see it on the actual computer web page. So, but I really wish that no books were written where Elvis rests. I think that's enough. Let him sleep in peace, please. I think basically Eva's saying I wish that no books were written and let Elvis rest in peace there. Well, the thing is, I think you've got to read these books, because sometimes people think that they're saying negative stuff about Elvis. And this book is not. It's a very positive book about how loving Elvis was, and how much he gave. So though I appreciate it, keep coming back on there. And then at ELLE. Also, I had to hit the Google Translate on this one as well. Kind of had a similar opinion. Poor Elvis. There are too many profiteers, and he should rest in peace. I think that I think us Elvis fans love to read things, though. We love to have some new information to look at, and then we can discern whether it's true or baloney, right? And that's what I want to do. I want to give you guys the stuff. You guys discern it. We can talk about it for sure. Thank you for reading this book. Interesting story, but I follow Billy Joe Smith and Joe, the YouTube channel, and they've never spoke of Elvis having a long-term relationship. Billy and Joe Smith was with Elvis from a young age until the last night he lived. And I love the fact that, they went and played racquetball. Billy was there. He was there for Elvis. It doesn't necessarily mean that Elvis had that type of relationship to confide in a certain person that came and went in his life. Or when he wanted to talk about it, maybe Billy wasn't around at that point in time. At Lunworks, the phone does listen to us. Yeah, hate the air knowing what we're doing. Yesterday, Elvis' son Michael Presley came up. I hadn't heard of him or forgot, but the story is so much the same. He was in an interview about 7 months ago. Said he thinks he was born in '56. Had a birth certificate with Presley on it. Priscilla was accepting him more these days. I'll take a look at that. I've seen a few things here and there. I mean, we all know the Deborah Presley one. Derry even mentioned it. She stood outside the hospital while Lisa was dying, and said that I'm here to try to see my sister. She's my half sister. Derry said she's very aggressive about trying to find her place in the history of Elvis. While Desiree is very private. Derry nailed it. No naysayer can explain if this is all a hoax. How Lucy and Derry managed to pull it all off. They have had to hone their story and plug in potholes. They would have had to swear their fellow conspirators, Lucy's friends in Monroe, and Alexandria, her kids, her husband, her co-workers, etc., to secrecy, and not one of them to this day has ever stepped forward to confess it was all a hoax. That Lucy and Derry made the whole thing up, not one. Not one person in the book has ever proclaimed Lucy to be a liar and a crazy woman. On the contrary. Also, John O'Grady was living when this book came out. John didn't sue Derry. He was a source. He was one of Derry's sources. Hey, Cheryl Wintle, 7497, made it to the end, Kathy. By the way, that was a great comment back there and a great point. And I appreciate Cheryl. I appreciate you reading all the way to the end and being with me. It does help the channel. I think I forgot to mention that a few times. In fact, almost every time in the last 20 books that I've been reading. But I did mention it before that if you can make it to the very end, like Sandy, B9 just did as well, that it helps the video and it helps me on YouTube. Thanks for reading this book. It's impossible to find a copy anywhere. It's just very expensive. I don't know whether when the book came out, people didn't like it and trashed it, didn't believe it, or people just didn't buy it. Because there's not many that are out there, and the ones that are out there are very expensive. At Callie M63, on the Elvis and Lucy's daughter speaks out. Elvis plans to buy a house for them in Florida. Callie says, thank you, Joe, for your dedication and hard work. Your love for Elvis is truly admirable and evident. Love all the book playlists. I read Are You Lonesome Tonight? Oh, I read all Are You Lonesome Tonight when it first came out, and I believed it then, but even more so now. The detailed accounts of their relationship and the tragic events that unfolded are hard to dispute. It is a tragic love story shaped by young love and external circumstances. I couldn't help but see a semblance between Desiree and Elvis in their younger years before he underwent plastic surgery. And I think that's what you're going to say there cosmetic procedures. The photo of Elvis on the back page of the book only solidifies that she looks just like him. Can you try to do a side-by-side photo comparison? Yeah, I will. I'm going to do that. It'll be in the wrap-up video. I understand and respect Desiree's desire for privacy, but I do wish she could or would share more with us. I also found Lisa Marie's absence in Desiree's life to be a shame. It would have been wonderful for her to seek out her half-sister and get to know her. I think it would have left her less isolated, and that's the tragedy of not just Elvis, but in a lot of ways for Lisa too, is that people around them tried to isolate them. They tried to keep them out of favor of anybody else so they could get as much as possible themselves. That's my opinion, though, All right, Drew leaves another comment. Says, has Priscilla ever said anything about suing Elvis for more money? She always talks like they were best friends up until he died. No, she hasn't mentioned that. She's not going to bring that up. That's just negative on her part. Good question, though. Hey, Stephanie Foley, 6834. I believe the story 100%. Timeline fits with all of their meetings and details, which check out along with the authenticated poem and the listing of father's last name Presley in 1958. Silly details about renting horses in 1953 and a mountain versus a hill are ridiculous in the big picture of evidence. Thanks, Joe, for the reading. It helps pass the time while cleaning. Hey, you're welcome. And, it's funny. I just got done cleaning. My wife was working on the cat shed. We got a nice cat shed, and they've got all these litter boxes out there. And I had to go out there and spray it out and clean it down a little bit because they get messy. Cats get messy. So I understand trying to pass some time while cleaning. And that's what I want this to be. I mean, you can be driving the car. You don't have to watch the videos. You can just listen to them. And cleaning, sometimes it just helps to, as you just said, it kind of helps to have maybe a little adventure to go on in your mind to distract you from what you're doing. Because we all know these mundane tasks in life, cleaning, dishwashing, spraying out cat sheds, working outside on the car, whatever you're doing, it helps to have something that distracts you a little bit. At RCOWATR, like maybe R Clowwater, 1600, I've been following along with your reading of Kathy's book, which I had previously looked for but couldn't find. At first, I wasn't even gonna do that because I questioned her credibility to be objective, since I had heard in an interview that she said Elvis had died of bone cancer. I figured she just wanted to erase the stigma of drug overdose or maybe a heart attack brought on by fried banana and peanut butter sandwiches. Then I started looking at photos of him during that final year, where sometimes he looked pretty normal, or at least not excessively obese, And then a few months later, he had ballooned to reportedly over 300 pounds. It's easy to see in those heavier photos that he was suffering from something that was causing him to retain lots of fluid. Kathy said earlier in the book that Elvis had told her that he had something that was cancer-like. Indeed, there are a lot of illnesses where symptoms can be misdiagnosed as cancer, and perhaps were not as easily distinguished by the 1970s medical technology. Listening to her story has changed my mind, and your Elvis voice makes things more vivid than they otherwise would be. Now I wish she would update and republish it. Anyhow, I was skeptical about Kathy, and now I'm not. So I decided to try the Lucy book, even though my initial reaction to the idea of yet another secret child of Elvis was to roll my eyes. Hey, I get it. I mean, there's a lot of stories out there. But, Elvis himself in the lie detector test that you're gonna kind of hear about in the Elvis and Lucy Are You Lonesome Tonight book, had said that he had known over 5,000 women. And to that point, he mentioned Lucy's pet name, Desiree, as one of those. And I think it was the only name that he actually mentioned himself, to make sure that he didn't fail a lie detector test, because he was being accused of having another child, not the same one, not Desiree and Lucy, but somebody else. It ended up being a false thing. But anyhow, let me know what you think about that. I get the initial reaction, and I get the naysayers. I really do. But to the naysayers, I say, on those books, follow my series. Yeah, it's going to take a while. But, once again, if you're cleaning, if you're driving down the road, listen to them. And then if you want to get the book, read the book. Derry doesn't make any money on it anymore. Lucy never made money on it except what Derry gave her. Well, she wasn't even in the contract to get money, I guess. And Desiree certainly is not getting any money. So if you feel like you're contributing to giving them money and you don't necessarily believe it, well, you're not. You buy it used. I guess whoever bought the book initially from whoever bought the book first, they make that money. Okay? Hey, it's Swandall. Does anyone know how old Lucy was when she passed? Well, I think she passed somewhere in the last 2, 3, 4 years. And that would make her somewhere around 80 or 90. Gosh, I guess, yeah. Well, she'd have to be right around Elvis's age. Similar to Elvis. So somewhere between 80 and 85 probably. Good question. User Lion Girl or Lyana Girl or Lynn Girl maybe? You're going to have to answer a comment sometime and say, hey, it's this, and sonically spell it out to me. Thanks for reading this book, because, if it's not Lion Girl, that sounds like you're lying, right? I don't want to say something that's not true, right? Thanks for reading this book. I believe this book because I truly believe he was in love with Lucy. He could have loved millions of women, but I think his heart was with Lucy. It's a good point. The thing is, physical contact with people is different than a deeper spiritual, emotional connection that you don't forget, that you don't stop feeling. And I think that people want to... who did Elvis have that with? That deep contact that he never stopped feeling. It certainly wasn't with June Winico, right? Didn't have any more contact with her. It wasn't with Elizabeth Stefaniak, because she went off and married Rex and followed her heart, and Rex followed his heart. They didn't have a relationship after that. It certainly wasn't with Anita Wood. I don't see it being with Priscilla. Linda Thompson was towards the end of his life, and he chose to be with Ginger, not Linda. He sent Linda home on a plane so he could have Linda there, have Ginger there. So I don't think it was Linda. I think Linda cared and took care. Once again, the picture that we see of Linda Thompson, to me, is painted as a really good one, that she really cared about Elvis and tried to protect him. But as a 20 to 24-year-old girl, gosh, that's a tall task to ask. Which is why I always say it's a tall task. It was a tall task for Ginger. I haven't read the book. We'll talk about how I feel about that in general when I read the book. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this. And gosh, 30 minutes. It's taken me 30 minutes to get through these comments. Phyllis Lewis says, all right, how naive, show me the money. They didn't make any money off this. I don't think, or much. I don't think so. I don't think we can do an audit of the account of what Derry sent to Lucy. But she wasn't getting checks. Derry Matera was getting checks. She didn't want to have the quote-unquote blood money, from what Derry says. She wrote it for her daughter, and she wrote it to protect Elvis's image because the Albert Goldman was a hack job. Our Chloe Waters 1600, overcoming my initial skepticism has been difficult, but the book has certainly been entertaining from the very beginning, so I've stayed with it. Between Lucy's vivid reconstruction of events, combined with your conversations with Derry Matera, it's pushed me to the acceptance stage. Now, the lack of DNA evidence, though, is an obstacle for many and a lingering doubt. I agree. I think that, once again, I try to compare this with Christianity. We don't have DNA tests on Jesus, do we? We don't have DNA tests between him and God. You know what I'm saying? So I most of the time, it's nice if we had full proof of something like that. But you don't always have to have a full proof in order to have a belief. I would think that Desiree would want to do it simply to exonerate her mother. But that is her business. The fact that Elvis is gone should not be an obstacle. Okay, so let's see if this scrolls up here because it's towards the end of my video. But the fact that Elvis is gone should not be an obstacle. She could easily enough prove blood relation. She could easily enough prove blood relation, if not parentage, through one of his many surviving blood relatives. After all, Thomas Jefferson died in 1826. Yet in 1998, it was proven that the descendants of Sally Hemings were related to him. So, I don't know how to go about this. Let's just say the grandchildren. Let's say the grandchildren give DNA. I mean, the thing is, all these folks have to put their DNA in the system. And I truly believe that the DNA is not in the system very much, like the closer relatives. So I think you said that even if it's not definitively Thomas Jefferson, they got a pretty close, and this is generally accepted fact. I don't think it's I don't know. It's going to be up to Desiree, and Desiree already did a test, and it came back with no paternal match. What does that mean? Does that mean that there's no DNA of Elvis in the system on his side? I mean, is there anybody she's related to? I don't know. I haven't spoke to her, and I don't know. We've texted. She's been very sweet. I just don't know how deep she wants to get involved with this, because like I said, I've said in almost every video, she didn't ask me to do this, neither did Derry. This was a very big coincidence. And it's a coincidence that Derry and I, or not a coincidence, but it's just not something I planned, that Derry and I have had these conversations. Somebody that had emailed Derry said, "Hey, I got his contact information. You want me to give it to you?" And I said, "Sure." So I reached out to him, Kathy Pitts, I believe. I'm sorry. Hopefully I'm not misremembering your name. And said, "Hey, reach out to him." So I did, and he reached out to me. We've been having talks since then. And he hasn't really thought about this book a whole lot. I mean, I guess here and there he's probably had some conversations about it because it was a big book. At RACH Deck 5521, Elvis was a milking cow for many of his conquests, Linda Thompson and the others. It was for his money. Before he's famous, no one was interested in him before. In high school, the girls ran away from him. The only woman who loved and protected Elvis was his mother. Not all the girls ran away from Elvis. He had some girlfriends, Dixie Locke, Barbara Hearn. But were those... I think those might have been after he had his record deal and he was singing, possibly. I don't know. I know there was a girl before that he went to prom with. Was that Dixie Locke? I think that was Dixie. So I need to get some of those earlier books too, because Elvis Presley I'm sure he had crushes on people. I remember there was a little something I found where he changed Vernon and Gladys's birth certificate and wrote him and another girl's back in Tupelo. It was a cute story. Hey, Marta Arroyo Herrera. I think you actually answered a comment, somebody that was a detractor. But if Desiree is outside of everything, she has nothing to do here. If Elvis wanted to get back with. So you wrote a great comment. You always read a lot of great comments, Marta. And I think Derry even mentioned you. So, anyways, TCB TLC. I'm losing my voice. I'm at the limit of how much I can talk in a day. Um, so I appreciate y'all. And sometimes I just play music while your comments run too. But I wanted to read as many as I could, and focus on as many as I could. I guess I can play the Rare Elvis photo song here, and we'll read the rest of the comments. All right, song I wrote here for the channel.
This channel here on YouTube has the greatest fans who defend the man with whom all music began. They are on here every day, loving the Memphis Flash, not afraid to talk about the future or talk about the past. Rare Elvis Foes is the name. We're not afraid to hit that play. To protect his legacy from his ex-wife, we speak out for Elvis, for what is right. So we're gonna keep making those videos. That's what we do here at Rare Elvis Photos. Every day, the most loyal fans of all leave me lots of comments, and we all have quite the ball. So I'll keep reading books and making sure Elvis is loved by the next generation as he watches from above. Rare Elvis Foes is the name. We're not afraid to hit that play. To protect his legacy from his ex-wife,
Priscilla bobblehead.
we speak out for Elvis, for what is right. So we're gonna keep making those videos. That's what we do here at Rare Elvis Photos. Loving all the haters, eat our greens and taters. Say yes sir and yes ma'am, keep standing right beside our man. Rare Elvis Foes is the name. We're not afraid to hit that play. To protect his legacy from his ex-wife, we speak out for Elvis, for what is right. So we're gonna keep making those videos. That's what we do here at Rare Elvis Photos.
And then we got Black and White, which I wrote recently, and it's going to probably be on the second record. The first record still hasn't come out. It'll probably get released somewhere around Christmas time, so I will let you know.
Would the world still be painted black and white if that Technicolor voice had never sung? Would Pat Boone still be the hunk of burning love? Would the world have ever heard Ray Charles or James Brown if Elvis Presley's folks hadn't moved to Memphis town? We went from 0 to 100 miles per hour, from just a seed to a field of golden flowers. From horse and buggy to a rocket ship, Elvis did that with a shake of his hips. Some people try to say he stole his sound. Elvis just sang from down within his soul. With just his voice he broke the great divide between all music that was black and white. B.B. King and Little Richard thanked him. Elvis took the racist world and changed them. We went from 0 to 100 miles per hour, from just a seed to a field of golden flowers. From horse and buggy to a rocket ship, Elvis did that with a shake of his hips. Yeah, hips. This world would look like a different place if we never got to gaze on Elvis' face. We went from 0 to 100 miles per hour, from just a seed to of his hips. Yes, Elvis did that with a shake of his hips. Yeah, yeah.
Well, gosh, this is probably the longest comment video I've done. Well, hope you got featured in it. If not, look for yourselves next time. TCB TLC. This is Rare Elvis Photos.